Welcome to Control4 Driver Development Essentials. My name is Peter Casenza. In this video, we'll look at the various tools that Control4 provides the driver development community to assist in creating device drivers. First, we'll review the DriverWorks SDK and its documentation. Then we'll take a tour of Driver Editor and learn about the development environment it provides. Finally, we'll review driver templates and discuss how they can be used to jumpstart your driver development. But before we get started, you should know that we'll be discussing numerous terms and concepts that are defined in Training Module Number 2, Director, Proxy, Protocols, and the Control4 Architecture. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch that video, we highly recommend it. Understanding the concepts in that video will let you get the most out of this one. Starting with Control4 OS Release 1.8.0, the DriverWorks Software Development Kit has been available. It is primarily a documentation set that is delivered in PDF format as well as compiled help systems. Generally speaking, DriverWorks is updated on or around Control4 OS releases. The SDK is free and available through the Control4 dealer portal and the Control4 Partner Program. DriverWorks consists of three main documentation areas: the Getting Started Guide, the Proxy and Protocol Guide, and the API Reference Guide. In addition to the DriverWorks development training videos, the DriverWorks Getting Started Guide is a good place to start to become familiar with Control4's driver-based architecture. It outlines the role of a driver and defines its various parts. It breaks down a driver's schema section by section and discusses how each can impact device control. It also reviews ways to modify drivers and provides some best practice information. The Proxy and Protocol Guide is a useful reference that defines all of the supported Control4 device proxies. The proxies are broken down into two broad categories: audio-video devices and non-audio-video devices. Let's take a look at the documentation for a proxy that we have already used in these videos, the receiver proxy. As you can see, here are all of the proxy commands that the receiver proxy supports. If we open a command, say on for example, we'll find that a definition is provided and any parameters that the command requires are listed and defined. Often, commands require additional information, and that is provided in usage notes. You will also notice that just below the receiver proxy commands are the protocol notifications. They are defined in a similar manner as the proxy commands. And finally, as you can see, the receiver proxy supports quite a few capabilities which reflect common functionality found in most popular receivers. We've included them here as well. Finally, let's take a look at the API Reference Guide. The guide is organized into groups of API functions that reflect how they interface with device drivers and the Control4 system. Much like the Proxy and Protocol Guide, the APIs are defined with all their respective parameters, return data, and code examples where warranted. The DriverWorks SDK offers a solid reference foundation for your driver development efforts. You'll find that having these documents readily available when developing drivers is not only useful, but will save you time in the long run. Control4 also provides a development environment for driver developers to design, develop, and test drivers. The tool providing that environment is named Driver Editor. Driver Editor lets you work on a single driver, or you can connect to a driver database, which enables you to work on a group of drivers. The Driver Editor work area provides a graphical user interface into the DriverWorks SDK and the schema found within a device driver. To get a feel for the power behind Driver Editor, let's take a quick tour of the toolbar and see how it lets us view the schema behind a rather complicated receiver driver. Our receiver driver relies on several Control4 proxies to provide all of the features that it supports. The Proxies tab lets us view them all in a very organized way, and we can open each one and see the proxy binding ID, which is configured in our driver code. And we can go as far as changing that value through the Driver Editor UI. The Capabilities tab provides us with a succinct view of all the receiver's capabilities. We can open one and view or even change its settings. It also allows us to add a capability to a driver on the fly. The Configuration tab provides us with a lot of information in a manageable format. All of this comes from the Config section in our driver code. Not only can we review our driver's configuration settings, but we can change them here as well. Being a receiver driver, the code supporting connections is lengthy, detailed, and complex. Driver Editor does a good job of graphically displaying those connections. It also exposes the actual XML code that will be included in the driver in an easy-to-see manner simply by hovering over the connection name. Since Driver Editor is creating the XML code, the driver developer does not need to be concerned about XML formatting and structures. This is a huge benefit of using Driver Editor rather than creating drivers in a standard text or XML editor. The Lua Codes and Commands tab opens up our driver in Driver Editor's Lua script screen. Here is where you will implement the device's specific commands and functions. Driver Editor does a good job of helping us navigate the driver code with the tabs on the right-hand side. Say, for example, I want to review the functions that are in the driver. I can click on the Functions and Variables tab, and here they are. Then, I can double-click on a specific function name, and I will navigate directly to that code block. My driver's actions, properties, and events are made available in a similar manner. The Commands tab is a useful way to view commands that are unique to our device and are not included in the Control4 proxy. The command's description and parameters, if needed, are displayed below. We can easily add a new command to our driver by right-clicking in the commands area and then clicking Add. Control4 proxy, protocol, and API documentation can also be accessed directly in this section by clicking on their respective tabs on the left-hand side of the screen. From here, you can hover over an API, command, or notification to see its description. You can also right-click on an item to insert it directly into your driver. As you can see, Driver Editor is a powerful tool that bridges the gap between our driver and the DriverWorks SDK. For the benefits we've outlined here, and many others that fall outside the scope of this video, Control4 strongly recommends Driver Editor as the preferred environment for driver development. Before we stop, let's take a look at another tool that Control4 is providing to the driver development community. These are driver templates. Driver templates are proxy-specific files that you can use to jumpstart your driver development. Driver templates are technically drivers and that they have a .c4i file extension. However, when you open one up, they look different than a completed driver. Let's open up the projector template in Driver Editor and take a look. Here is our projector template in the Codes and Commands window. The first thing you should notice is the documentation within the file. Driver templates contain documentation that is specific to the type of driver that they have been designed to help create. They also use a convention named Template Review. As we scroll through our projector template, you'll see this in many places. These are visual cues for the driver developer to identify areas of code that will need to be modified to support a unique device. The goal of a driver template is to help with completing a driver from a controlled starting point. Using driver templates correctly can significantly decrease the amount of time it takes to create a unique device driver. We've covered a lot of material in this video, but fortunately, all of the documentation and tools outlined are free and readily available for use. Between the DriverWorks documentation, a development environment delivered through Driver Editor, and standardized driver templates, we hope you are not only excited about developing drivers, but feel like you have a dependable set of tools to make your driver development efforts successful.